The swamp, illuminated by a bright purple light hovering in the sky. As Juno noted, it was one of the satellites of our planet. We super call it Tilia, which appeared at night and replaced area. We had been walking through the swamp for half the night. All the while, Juno was looking with interest at all the bugs, worms, and spiders that came across on our way. In the swamps, these critters were big, the size of a palm, so I once again tried not to step on them. I forgot this was a digging sim. The first one I played it last night. It was just a pure dream. Now looking at this, it's just like, oh my god, this is the reality. I am actually playing a furry dating sim game. Killing. Juno didn't disdain at all and grabbed them with her bare hands, examining and touching each foul swamp creature. You better put it down. Juno stroked the furry body of well-fed, bright red spider with fluffy paws. The very sight, it gave me goosebumps, and I wanted to either run away or smear this monster across the ground with one kick. But Juno didn't share my views on these creatures. To her, they were all interesting and cute. Why are you overreacting? Look how pretty it is. Such cute, fluffy legs. Cute. These brats look like monsters. True. Juno smiled at me gently. Well, many inhabitants of the universe look like monsters, but in fact are very nice and kind creatures. For example, the inhabitants of planet 1098 look like huge mutant worms and stink of natural mucus. But they are very pleasant guys. They were so hospitable, they invited me to their place right away, showed me everything and allocated the whole delegation to give me an excursion around the planet. English. They invited me to come by, but so far I had no time to make a visit. Can I ask a question? Juno shrugged her shoulders. Of course, Doug, ask. Why do you need permission? Well, it's just a bit of a personal question. Juno waved her hand. Of course, ask. I'm listening. Why did you decide to, show the universe? Have you always wanted to do this, or did you just have no choice? Ooh, he's asking the chosen one question. Oh, nice, I see. There was silence. Juno apparently was considering my question. She lowered her hand, allowing the terrible red-bellied thing that was barely even worth calling a creature at all to crawl away. It was some kind of painful topic for you then. No, I was just thinking how to make the story short. My species had a long history. We were once just some slaves created to replace real soldiers in war. That took a turn. An artificial species created in labs with the help of science. But after many efforts, we gained our freedom and became a normal species with free will. Since then, most of us pursue either an assortment of collective goals or individual dreams. Some protogens work for our government and complete special missions. Some live a normal life on our home planet, and some of them, like me, live on their own and travel through the universe. Since I was born, I always wanted to study biology, but maybe because I was imprinted in my genes when I was created. I never thought about anything else since I became free. I didn't understand a lot of words she said, so I tried to summarize everything without asking useless questions. So it's like, your fate. Something like that. Juno turned me to the thoughtful expression on her helmet. Fate? Is that like a religious concept of predetermined future? I mean, you could say that like that. Yeah, something like that. Here we have, for an example, Mother of Heaven. She creates fate. She lives on a cloud and weaves destiny for everyone from heavenly threads. It's just like Jesus. And you can't go against this fate. She decides who you will become, what you will do, and in general, she determines your whole life. Damn. And how do you know what she decided? Well, usually someone just lives their whole life without making any changes and believes that this is the only way it should be. The roof of your house fell in, so this is your fate. A flood killed all the cattle, your fate. A lean year, very simple, this is your fate. We live like that, and we only believe in fate. We go bankrupt, it's your fate. And what about the unusual? I frowned, not understanding what Juno meant. What do you mean? Well, you said it's usually like this, but what happened to the exceptions? I bit my lip. Thinking about her words, my gaze fell on Tilia, frozen in the sky, illuminated by a pinkish purple glow. Well, one time our elder said that Lit, this was the younger brother of Mother of Heaven, came to him and told him that one boy of our village is the chosen one. And Lit told of his fate, that he was destined to live in the village all of his life. And then when he turned 21, but that was 20. became the head of the settlement, and that this boy is supposed to save our village and inhabitants from some terrible trouble in the future. And if he leaves, nothing can be saved, and our village will be destroyed. It's horrible. How can they say such thing to a child? It is simply unacceptable. Or is it normal for your culture? I shrugged my shoulders. I don't know, but I mean, this boy didn't like what he heard at all, and he has lived like this all his life, not daring to do anything of his own free will. The villagers decided for everything for him, because they believed that since he was their savior, it meant that he became their property. If you put it like that, then yes, that's very depressing. Something like that. A sad story. What did it happen? Did this boy save his village? I smiled mirthlessly. Well, no, in fact, it is still unclear how this story will end. The boy is now, he's in the village, and he's preparing to save the village from who knows what. Do you believe that? His fate? Judah looked at me with undisguised interest. For her, it is all probably sounded like a fairy tale. However, it did for me too. I didn't know what to say. I didn't believe in fate, but at the same time understood that if it was my fate was predetermined, I wouldn't know what about it. What if it's really like that? What if something happened to the village when I left? To be honest, no, I don't believe it. At least that's what I thought, that there is no fate. And there is no mother of heaven or lit either. All of this is a fiction in order to make life easier for people. What do you mean, make life easier? People have always been afraid of a lot of things. Death, for example, or crop failure. It's not their fault if their crop fails. It's not Mother Heaven. It's their fault because they didn't, properly take care of it. They didn't know how to deal with it. So they came up with a fairy tale that some woman in heaven decides everything, that she runs everything. And after death, she will take us to heaven and let us work and help create the universe. Somehow made it life easier. And people are not so afraid to die anymore. Well, that's the exact idea of religion. That's what I mean. It's similar on most of the planets with intelligent species. Although I'm surprised you don't understand despite your limited knowledge about our universe. Judah smiled gently at me. You're truly a black sheep. I arched an eyebrow, not understanding what Judah was talking about. Never mind. I have heard such an expression on one planet. Being a black sheep means that you are different from others, not like them. Is this like a racist thing because they're black, or am I going too deep on that? I smiled and nodded. Yes, I guess I really was a, in quotations, black sheep. What about you? You said that some of you live far away from our planets. Is that a common thing? Not a common thing, but not too rare either. Especially for scientist-type protogens. Some of us wanted freedom more than others, so it's okay for our protogen to live a lonely life without making contact with other protogens. For me, the universe and its nature, it's much more interesting than anything else. There are so many new and unexplored things out there in space, and you never wanted to go back home? Tina shrugged as she bagged another sample. Maybe sometimes, but not that much. Before I gained my freedom will, I was working in a lab every day. Makes sense. I usually worked with other protogen scientists, but since we all became free, nobody wanted to work with others. And everyone started their own journey as a lonely scientist. Besides, the first generation of protogens never had families or close friends. Same thing as our main character. Wow, it's not something that we were supposed to learn in our so-called childhood. How is that possible? Weren't you born by your mothers? Or at least eggs or something like that? As I already said, we were created artificially in laboratories. Ooh. We were created with the help of genetic engineering and VR training. Oh, VR is invented, okay. Gene... What? Well, it is something like deciding with which characteristics the creature will have before it's born. So like a Fallout game, basically. You can make it strong, fast, tall, short, and so on. Oh, imagine making it short but strong. It's funny. The only difference from fate is that it's decided by another creature, not a god. Our creators made us strong and healthy, but obedient. Gladly, we destroyed our shackles and started a new life. But I won't tell you the whole story right now. It's really too long. I'd like to have explained it too many things. Besides, I already told you a lot of things that I shouldn't have. Except for the slavery. It sounds very cool. I'd be happy to have the possibility to travel to distant places. I've been dreaming of traveling all my life, to see at least our planet, but well, I couldn't. Why not? Well, I didn't have a jet to fly everywhere. It's dangerous to travel, alone on foot, or for such a weak creature like me. Oh, he just admitted it. Okay. Though it's just not scary. It's also so scary with someone else. I don't have any friends here. I'm glad to hear that, Doggo. Though I didn't know it was alright in your culture to not have friends. No, it isn't actually. My peers have a lot of friends, but in short, I don't have anyone. Just parents, but not friends. This is different. Juno asks, shoot, really? Do you have no friends because you don't believe in Mother Heaven and Lit? Or you don't believe in Mother Heaven or Lit because you have no friends? I took the moment. Hearing this from her, I smiled. It sounded really absurd, but I couldn't say why I really didn't have any friends. I didn't want to admit that I'd lied to Juno and wasn't qualified to help with her research. I just grabbed the first chance I got to escape from the prison in which I spent my whole life. If Juno hadn't gone in my way, what would have I done? Probably I would have returned to the village. I would have come up with some story, begged the villagers to take me back, assured that I was realize all my mistakes, would never do anything like this again. Or maybe I just disappeared into the woods because it was better than returning to my own home. I think so to some extent. I once told my friend Damien that I don't believe in all this. He reacted very aggressively. And then he called me a betrayer. I haven't told anyone since then that I think it's not all nonsense. Juno smiled gently at me. Doesn't matter now. Look, Doggo, you're traveling right now. This is probably not what you expected and dreamed of, but I shook my head, interrupted Juno. No, it's great, really. It's even now, this is the coolest adventure of my life. Besides, I am very lucky I met you. I never thought I would ever see inhabitants of other planets. Wait, are we on another planet? Oh, this storyline is so confusing. It's so cool when you see your friend is an alien from outer space. Because background right here, this is not like Earth. I laughed merely, sincerely, but for some reason Juno didn't share my joy. It was as if I had something wrong, but I didn't understand what exactly. The image of her helmet changed, the smile disappeared, giving away to a sad expression. Something right? Did I say something wrong? Let's get ready. I'm already finished here. I scanned the rest of my helmet. We can finish with this territory and go to the next tomorrow morning. Here, take the samples and put them in your bag. I immediately picked up the bag with samples and shoved them into the large bag behind my shoulders. Juno, are you sure you're okay? I'm sorry if I blurred something out. Maybe it has some other meaning for you. I didn't even know. It's okay, Doug, forget it. Juno smiled, but it seemed like for me to that even in the helmet, the smile looked too artificial and forced. Never late. If I said something wrong, it's okay. I told you. Come on, Pixie's waiting for us. First, those roots of yours that you cooked yesterday. I hope it will pass for dinner. I rarely restrained the pain ground as I followed Juno with my backpack at the ready for any last minute samples. You know, I think they're gone bad, but they're not actually usually stored for so long. Weird. I scanned them before I left. They were fresh. Besides, I froze them, but we'd never freeze them, so they're probably already gone bad. I'm telling you for sure, it's better not to eat them anymore. Oh, okay. What will you eat then? Have any of those fruits that you gave me? I'll check when we're there. Don't worry. I won't leave you hungry, Doggo. Juno turned around and smiled at me over her shoulders, but there was still something fake in her smile, but I didn't understand what I was guilty of. We finished with the territorial forest. Where are we? What the heck? God dang. Icy clouds. We finished with the territorial forests around the north of the village, our valley, and headed south, where a hot desert with fiercely scorching sun awaited us. As it turned out, Juno couldn't stand high temperatures, and what was the point in hiding it? I never actually been to this place. I knew it existed. I read about it in books. Juno wasn't thrilled because her cooling systems, as she called it, were having a hard time coping with such heat. It's scorching hot in here. It's awful. Let's quickly scan everything here and get it over with. Yes, you're right. I don't want to stay here for a long time either. Juno began to illuminate everything with yellowish light that came from her helmet. She squatted down to study the sand and rocks while I loitered nearby, squinting from the blinding rays. Look, are you sure no one lives here? Juno got on her feet and looked at me. I shrugged my shoulders. Yes, no one. Weird. What's weird? Did you find something? I don't know. I don't even know. I haven't figured it out yet. Juno continued to scan the area. I suddenly remembered that I had to play the role of an omniscient person who knew the whole planet inside out, and so with the most unaffected facial expression I said, I assure you it's obviously I assure you it's obviously safe. No one lives here. Besides, who would survive in this heat? My words, which sounded surprisingly natural and unperturbed, apparently cheered Juno up. She continued to rummage in the sand, studying the pebbles and particles of various substances when she came across. At the time, I could hardly stand on my feet, and the feeling of sweat trickling down my temples was an obvious sign to finish up the research quickly. Suddenly, I felt a jolt. It seemed like it came from everywhere, as if the planet itself had shuddered. Did you feel that? She turned to look at me. I shrugged, trying to stay calm. I don't know. Maybe it was just a falling rock. That's unlikely. My sensors have detected. At the moment, oh, it's like a worm or something? At the moment, I screamed and jumped on the dry ground under my feet, seemed to move. Juno looked at me, and I looked back at her with huge eyes. What the? She didn't have time to finish. A huge something burst out of the ground. Sand splashed on all directions. The ground under my feet was shaking, and I couldn't do anything to hold back a loud scream. Right between Juno and I, blocking our way, was a giant fat worm. I knew it. Juno, run! Go over here. Juno touched a huge round mouth and the worm and ran around the large body, grabbing my hand. Due to the fact that I was confident in the safety of this place, we had moved quite far from the jet, and now we could easily become lunch of an underground worm. Juno ran away, still holding my hand, but I couldn't run as fast as she could. The worm, diving on the ground again, chased us, hoping to snatch its prey. You said there was no one here. I thought there was no one here. You said you do. Sand got into my mouth. I coughed as the ground moved away from under my feet. I felt just at this moment the huge worm popped out of the ground again. Juno, help! Juno froze in place. Interference jumped across her helmet, and I couldn't understand the expression on her face. Sand got into my eyes. I could feel the worm coming towards me, and smelled the terrible stench of its mouth. Oh, she got that blaster. And after I had already said goodbye to life, there was a loud bang. I opened my eyes. Juno was holding what she called a gun. Oh, they don't know it was a gun yet. Okay, so my first part, aim at the worm and pull the trigger. Get up quickly. That rat's wrong. The worm became distracted and squeaked loudly. So Juno grabbed me and almost dragged me to the jet. We barely had enough time to get in, so Juno threw me into a chair and shouted, "See, let's get us out of here." She obeyed. The jet hummed and soared into the air. I was breathing heavily, sitting in the armchair, trying to calm the frantic pounding of my heart. Juno was sitting next to me with her elbows on her knees and her head on her hands, staring at the floor. Her helmet was expressionless. We were silent for a few minutes while we tried to catch our breath. My legs were still shaking from running so fast, and my hip hurt from falling. Soon a bruise would appear. Phew, we did it. A smile appeared on my lips. See that huge bastard? He almost ate me. Thanks for... Juno didn't let me finish, and she got up, silently left, leaving me alone. The module door closed behind her with a soft click. This is weird. Completely unaware what had happened and why Juno had reacted like that, I continued to sit in the chair in silence and solitude. Pixie? Yes, Doggo? Did I say something wrong? Sorry, Doggo, I can't talk about this, it's personal. Bruh. Would you like to drink some water and change your clothes? I found it even hotter. Why couldn't Pixie talk about it? Why can't you talk about it? Oh, then what's the point of thinking about it if you're just gonna say it? Sorry, Doggo, I can't tell you. Would you like to drink some water and change your clothes? This conversation was going nowhere. I leaned back in my chair and ran my hand over my face. Grains of sand stuck to my skin and I was covered with a layer of either dust or gritty dirt. Yeah, I would. Thanks, Pixie. I'm assuming those are chapters when those clocks are showing. Juno don't talk to me for the next day. Oof, that's bad. Oh, that's bad. When we went to the Western Forest, she worked without a single word. She silently scanned the area and shoved samples into my hands, but refused to answer any of my questions. I knew I had done something wrong, but I didn't know exactly what it was. Several times I tried to start a conversation or ask something, but Juno either answered shortly yes or no, or ignored my words altogether. I felt lousy. During the few days that Juno and I had traveled together, I had gotten used to our communication and the sound of her voice. I had never been as interested in anyone as I was in her. Maybe it was because I never talked to anyone so much, about anything in the world, about life, about fate, about nature, and so on. It seemed to me that Juno and I had found a common language. I was sure that she felt the same way, but now I don't understand what happened, or how to fix it. I didn't want to lose contact with Juno. I had never experienced such togetherness with anyone as I did with her. When we were walking through the forest, this time, quite a rare one, with the comfortable totem road, Juno said, "You lied to me, didn't you? You don't know anything about your planet." Oof. Oh, the jig is up. I froze, no longer trailing behind her. My heart sank into my heels. My face turned bright red, and I didn't know what to answer with. I will. What makes you think that? Because it's impossible not to know about freaking giant worms if you know the whole planet like the back of your hand. Tina turned to me with an angry expression on her helmet. I hesitated. What could I say? After all, she was right. I had no idea I was putting us both in danger. Maybe I once read about something like this in books. I didn't know the giant worms lived in the southern desert. Doggo, tell me your truth. Yes, you're right. You're 100% right. I don't know about much about nature, or even much about the whole planet as a whole. I never left my village. Gina looked at me surprised and then growled fiercely. She kicked the large stone near her foot and flew in the other direction. Why did you lie to me? You could have said right away. Am I your babysitter? I needed a guide, not a liability. And you don't know anything. I couldn't tell otherwise. You wouldn't have taken me. That's right. I wouldn't have taken you. I wouldn't be responsible for your life. But I had to leave. What else was I supposed to do? You came out of nowhere. Said you were from another planet. I was confused. Don't lie to me, Doggo. You didn't get confused. You decided to play traveler and took advantage of me. I'm not your babysitter. I thought you were an experienced person. I thought you knew everything about your planet. But what did you turn out to be? I hung a pile of stones around my neck, and if you had died yesterday, what would I do? What would I say to you? What would I say in your village? What's the difference? I'm alive. You're alive thanks to me. Tina stomped on her foot in anger. She was breathing heavily, and the face on her helmet turned bright red with unfiltered rage. I didn't know how to justify myself. After all, just tell the truth. Bro, to say like you outcast, chosen one. I don't know. I made a deal by lying to her about everything. The only thing I didn't lie was about my name, and she had a big mission. She had to study a planet and solve my problems for me. I felt terribly ashamed and immediately regretted that I had not told the truth, but from the very beginning, my face lit up with a blush. Sorry, Juna, I'm sorry, I really am. I didn't mean to lie, just... What? Just did you end up by the river if you never left the village? What did you ask to come with me? What do you want, Doggo? I bit my lip, sighing heavily. A friend, maybe? I don't know, someone to talk to? I sat down on a fallen log and dropped my head in my hands. Do you remember how I told you about the boy who became the chosen one, allegedly, and the mother heaven chose him? And I remember, so what? What does it have to do with it? This boy is me. I was 3 years old when the elders told me that I had a great destiny, that my life was predetermined by the mother heaven, that she had a mission for me, and that's why I was sent here. According to the prophecy, I was supposed to become the ruler of the northern valley in the future, became a savior, and cope with some terrible threat. I never had a choice, you know. I was raised as a chosen one. I was treated as a chosen one, and not as a simple person. Even my parents called me the chosen one and savior every day, not by name. Everything was forbidden to me. I ate accordingly to the schedule. My day was scheduled by the minute. I wasn't allowed to read what I wanted, do what I wanted, go where I wanted. I lived there as a pet, and so on my 20th birthday, I couldn't do that anymore. I spoke in front of the whole village. I had prepared a speech for every birthday, and this time I expressed everything that boiled over. There was no mother heaven, there was no destiny. In general, I didn't believe in all this. I stood in front of everyone, in front of elders, in front of parents. They almost shoved me to the healers. They would definitely lock me in the house, just wait for the threat to come, but it might have never come. And I would spend my whole life with four walls like some kind of decoration, not a person. So I ran away. I just ran through the woods until I was exhausted. I didn't know what to do. I asked myself, where would I go now? In the forest, I would just die alone and go back to the village. This was, well, a voluntary surrender for my whole life. I didn't want the kind of life, you know. I want to live like a normal person. I want to travel, see the world. And then you showed up. Said you needed a guide, and I decided this was my chance. That now I could escape and no one would find me. I would see the world and you would help me with this. Well, I'd help you, you helped me. I didn't mean any harm, Juno, honestly. I just wanted to become your friend. I sighed and ran my hands down my face. Over my face. Juno, after hearing my confession, stood silently in the same spot, not knowing how to answer. I'm sorry I lied to you, but I really like traveling with you. I've never been friends with anyone, so I never had anyone. Just this Damien I was talking about, but he doesn't care about me, you know? He's only called my friend, but in fact, he's not my friend at all. I understand if you want to leave, but I'd like to stay with you. I never had such a great time with anyone, and thank you for saving me yesterday. If it wasn't for you, I would really be gone. When I finished my story, I looked away to the ground. I was afraid that Juno would drive me away and tell me to return to the village. Or even worse, she would just leave me here. But I never get to the Northern Valley from here because you were almost on the other side of the planet, no matter how small, according to Juno, it may have been. I didn't want to end so suddenly. After all, we had fun. We had fun together. Juno sighed, walked over and sat down next to me on the log. I don't need friends, Doggo. That's why I travel alone, so as not to make friends. Wait, I thought we were, I thought you enjoyed hanging out with me. Yes, I did, and I do. It's great, even fun and interesting to be with you. But I don't need it. This is, well, I can't. I shouldn't get attached to anyone. It's fraught with consequences. What consequences? Oh, we're getting interesting lore, interesting backstory. Juno was silent for a few minutes before finally giving up. Sorry, Doug, I also lied to you. I actually had a friend. Okay, before this going, I'm gonna guess. Juno had a friend. They were travel buddies. Something went wrong on a planet that they were collecting samples from. The friend died. And so Juno, after that experience, would never gain a friend or a partner after that because Juno feels like she's not good enough to protect a friend. That's my guess. My very best friend. We met on one of the planets I was exploring. His name was Toshi. He was my guide on that planet, but we got along so well that he also became my friend. There was nothing keeping him on the planet yet, neither relatives nor friends, so he decided to fly with me. We traveled together for a long time, lived side by side, and helped each other, and then... Well, there it is. Well, on one of the planets we fell into a trap, and Juno paused, her voice trembling. I paused my lips, already realizing what happened to Toshi. Juno looked really broken. When Toshi died, there was nothing I could do. Even if I could, I didn't do anything. I didn't have time. I only managed to take my own way out. He urged me to leave, and I shouldn't even think about staying with him, and I had to leave. Otherwise, we would have died together. For a while, it seemed to me that it would have been better if I had died with him. There wouldn't be this constant feeling of guilt. It's always, I forgot to say guilt, whatever, same thing. It's always with me, no matter what I do. And I can't be fixed. Toshi can't be returned. When I came to my senses, I vowed never to make friends ever again. Boom! Addictions. Oh, I'm so good. Or even somehow got attached to those with whom, or even somehow got attached to those with whom I drove around the planets. The guys became just helpers for me, and I tried to stay away from them. But with you, it's really great to be with you, just like with Toshi, but in a different way, of course. But then you showed me, I realized how lonely I've been all this time, but I can't get attached, I can't let it happen because then I might lose it again. I can't face it again. What would have happened if I haven't saved you yesterday? I agreed with the sign. I would have died. Exactly, right in front of my eyes. And then when I saw you lying there, and this worm was ready to devour you, I fell into a stupor. It was like if Yoshi appeared before my eyes and history was repeating itself. I don't know by what miracle I managed to pull myself together and help you. I don't want to lose a friend again, it's too hard. But you can't be alone all your life. Juno looked at me with a sad face. I didn't know how she felt. I had never lost any friends. I didn't have any friends at all in the first place. And I could only imagine how scary it was to carry such a burden and to blame myself every day. But that guilt trip must go crazy. Oh my god. But at the same time, I knew that I had no one to blame themselves every day. It was too hard to live with such a load. You can't control who you get attached to. And if that happened, maybe it should have. Juno smiled sadly. Fate? Mother of heaven? Or whatever. I chuckled, realizing her words. Something like that, I'm sure Toshi wouldn't want you to be alone for the rest of your life, and not let anyone near you. What did he say to you if you heard all this? Juno thought about it and laughed softly, and said something in a stern voice in a language I didn't know. Whatever that means. It translates as, let's say, well, pick up your snots and stop behaving like a child. Toshi was quite strict when it came to self-flagellation. I see. His philosophy was somewhat similar to yours. He believed that what was meant to happen couldn't be avoided, and what had already happened couldn't be changed. He said he would only get angry if he found out that for so many years I have been afraid to say an extra word to my assistants or even start a conversation, because the more you talk to them about abstract topics, the more you get attached. I think you and I found each other. I didn't have any friends because no one wanted to be friends with me. Well, everyone wanted to be friends with the chosen one, not with me. And you don't have any friends because you're afraid to make them. I think we're cut from the same cloth. Juno smiled. Maybe you're right. I'll try to help you, Juno. I promise. We don't have to. Well, become very close friends. We could be friends for now, Just get used to each other, and if we become best friends, so be it. And I'll try not to be a burden to you, okay? I held out my hand to Juno. She looked at me incomprehensive. in her eyes, but apparently quickly remembered what it meant. Finally, she sniffed as if she was crying, and sneezed my hand in a handshake. Alright, let's let everything go as it goes, and then we'll see, right? Yeah. Well, are we going to look for any stuff for research? Yes, it'll be dark soon. Let's get over it with as soon as possible. And then we'll go and look for more of your roots. I almost shuddered. By the way, I wanted to say, honestly, I don't know what these roots are. They're disgusting. I never want to eat them again. Judah exclaimed. Then why did you eat them? But I didn't know how to distinguish edible mushrooms from edible ones, and the roots are safer than mushrooms. In short, I lied to you. Sorry, but that's the last thing I lied to you about, honestly. I must admit, I suspected something like that. These roots stink terribly. I can't imagine how you ate them. What is it again? Honestly, I have no idea. She looked at me and then laughed out loud. What's wrong with you, doggo? You can't eat such filth. Just to not tell the truth. You know, your endurance is inedible. I probably wouldn't be able to do that. Just forget about it, and we'll find something better. Forget? Well, no, I remind you of it every day. Okay, let me save real quick. Boom. The further we moved across the planet, the closer Juno and I got. I felt like it was easy, right, and good for me with Juno. As if it was supposed to happen, as if we were supposed to meet. It seemed like we had known each other for a long time, and we just hadn't seen each other for many years. And now we have finally found our way to see each other, or to way to each other again. As promised, I helped Juno as much as I could. I tried to learn how to collect samples, of course, exclusively under her strict guidance. I recalled everything I studied about nature at school. I tried my best to become Juno's assistant, not a burden. I helped her to do some things in the jet. Juno even let me into her laboratory. She showed me everything there, although I still didn't understand most of her words. Juno laughed kindly and assured me that I would definitely figure it out in the future. Our journey ran through the whole world, and I didn't even know how big it really was. Of course, for Juno our planet was tiny, but for me it was a boundless expanse. For a guy who had lived all his life in one place, in one house, waking up every morning in a new place was a real miracle. More and more, I began to think about asking Juno to travel through space with her when her research on our planet was over. I didn't have enough of an imagination to picture what I would see there. I couldn't wait to go, even though I knew it would be extremely difficult to persuade Juno to take me with her. Maybe she'd never agree to it. I didn't want to think about what would happen if Juno just flew away one morning just as she arrived, and suddenly like a blast in the middle of the quiet forest. Would she forget about me? Leave it all behind? I couldn't imagine how I could possibly forget. I could leave our friendship or communication to heart-to-heart conversations behind my shoulders. For me, it was something new and so amazing I didn't even want to imagine what it like to lose sight of it. Sometimes I thought about my parents, whether they thought about me, whether they remembered what happened to them, to the village. From time to time, I dreamed about the village was completely destroyed, burned in a fire as soon as I left. The prophecy came true and it was all my fault. In these dreams, I felt helplessly and infinitely and expressively guilty. When I woke up in the morning, I was so depressed that Juno noticed and asked me if I was alright. But I couldn't tell her that what I was really thinking because I didn't want to turn these thoughts, these fears into words, then it would make them a reality. And I didn't need it. I didn't want to admit it. I was really guilty of something that I really left my village and my family in danger. Juno and I moved further north of the planet and soon found ourselves in the vast expanses of hills and sparse forests. As soon as we got out of the jet, a strange smell hit our noses and smelled like rot or long dead meat. We looked at each other and then I realized Juno had also smelled it. What is that stinks so much? I don't know, maybe something died nearby? We went further along the path in the forest and began to look closely at the trees and shrubs around us. They looked completely different from what I remembered. In the pictures of these books, these places were drawn quite differently. Now the leaves and trees and shrubs were covered with strange red dots and lines. It seemed like all the greeny had withered. But why? It was still too early for winter, and the air was quite warm. Should it be this way? I approached Juno, who was holding several wrinkled, blackened leaves in her hands. No, it simply shouldn't be like this. But it's too early for that. The weather's good. Winter isn't coming soon. Why did this happen? Juno frowned. It was clear that she was deep in thought about something. I'll take samples. I think we need to find out what kind of disease this is. Do you think it's some kind of infection? Juno nodded tensely. This is gonna be ancient. Look at the forest. It's all like this, even the grass. What do you mean? Have you seen something like this before? There was a panic in my voice. I didn't know what kind of trouble had happened to this forest. But there was clearly nothing good about the black spots on the plants. Juno shrugged, saying nothing in particular. I'm not sure. Maybe not. You can find out what it is, right? I'll try, Dago, I promise. Accepting her answer, there was no better alternative anyway. But an unpleasant anxiety appeared in my chest. I'd never seen anything like this before. When the seasons changed, the leaves fall, and it still didn't look like that. The air turned black, it turned yellow at most, and when the heat came, it turned green again. But when these plants seemed to be seriously ill, the whole forest went rot, getting heavy and dead. Juno's helmet has the same worried expression on it that I had. We need to get out of here. I don't like it. What, do you think it's dangerous? Maybe. It seems to me that at the moment an animal's cry was heard from somewhere in the depths of the forest. It was frantic, desperate, the animal struggling in agony. Juno and I exchanged glances without a word, ran towards the sound. In the middle of the clearing where we found ourselves, there was a three-horn. It was a large, once beautiful animal with 5 hooves and 3 horns on its head. Its eyes, usually yellow, turned white, and black blood flowed from its mouth. It smelled like a corpse, like rotting meat, as if its 3-horn had long since died, although we saw it convulsing. What happened to it? What's wrong? I don't know. We need to run some tests to find out. We got some zombies? Okay. This story's getting interesting. We're not talking to Pixie, right? We're not taking it to Pixie, are we? Juno shook her head empathetically. Of course not. If that's what I'm thinking about. What are you thinking about? I really like to know. This is my plan after all. Juno walked up to the 3-horn and looked at the dying animal with regret. What do you call them? 3-horns. They are herbivores, mostly harmless if you don't try to scare them. Very cute creatures. I'll take samples. Juno squatted down in front of the 3-horn. She reached for a black vicus pool of blood and took a sample from the sample stick. Let's get out of here. I'll tell you everything as soon as we get into the jet. It's unsafe here. Juno and I set off at a brisk pace in the opposite direction. Just in case, she took out her gun while I hurried after her. My heart was clenching in my chest with fear. What happened to this forest? What happened to this animal? What did Juno react with? When we were in the jet, Pixie greeted us with standard greeting, but immediately said, Juno, I must warn you, there's an unknown virus. It's a virus on the ship. I know, Pixie, we bought it. We need to understand what it is. Be careful, it could be dangerous. Virus, I mean like the flu? It's hardly harmless. You saw what happened to that 3-horn? Juno took my backpack with samples and told Pixie to take off. She decided to go back to where we were yesterday and stay in a safe place. Ooh, the laboratory. This looks like an Overwatch kind of map, not gonna lie. I followed Juno to her lab. You promised to tell me what it is? I go, aye. You promised. If this is some kind of disease, I want to know it's dangerous for our planet and how it can be stopped. Let me guess. She brought the virus from a different planet to this one. Juno sighed. She put all the samples we collected on the table and immediately put on protection, gloves, and special suit. Listen, I really don't understand it myself. I think it's some kind of virus, and if I'm right, we need to inform your village urgently. If this virus is as serious as I think it is, it will spread over the planet. We need to figure out if there's a chance to stop it, where it came from, and if there's a chance, it's possible there is one. Yes, I am a scientist, but this does not mean that I can't do everything. It may not work out, and then we might need to figure out what to do. The most importantly thing is whether this virus is dangerous to humans. I could feel my heart beating wildly in my chest. Juno set to work working on her instruments. Promise that you would tell me everything when you find out something. Of course, Doug, get some rest. Chat with Pixie. I decided not to disturb Juno following her advice. After leaving the lab, I didn't know what to do, so I just collapsed into a chair and tried to pull myself together. So, what do we have? Some unknown virus that killed plants and animals. I've never seen this before, so I was really scared. So my parents about the village immediately flashed into my head. What if the virus got there too? What should we do about it? The worst part that I couldn't help in any way. I tried to calm myself down, having no other options to cope with the panic. Maybe the virus wasn't as scary as I thought. At least, if it wasn't harm of the people, yes, livestock and crops may die, but we could cope with this. We already had bad years before, and back then we survived them all together. I told myself that it was possible to lose my temper right now and give up. After all, Juno was on my side, a scientist from another planet. She knew exactly what to do with this. For several hours, I restlessly roamed around the jet and tried to occupy myself with something, but no avail. At some point, I fell into a chair and managed to take a nap, but the restless surface sleep didn't last long. Juno came out of the lab, and from the look of her, I understood she didn't have any good news. What, did you find anything? Nothing. So keep an eye on the lab. Yes, Juno. What did you tell me? Juno sat down opposite me with a heavy sigh. I think it's a virus, and this virus is very dangerous. Judging by what I managed to find out at the moment, it spreads very quickly through the air and through touch. So like COVID. It kills carriers and remains in already dead organisms for a while. I tried to kill the virus with cold or heat, but effects of temperatures don't cause it any harm. It's Doggo. I don't want to scare you, but I think it's very serious. You need to return home immediately. Our journey is over. I assume this cannot be stopped, and I'll try everything I can do to help you prevent it. I gripped the arms of the chair, and my heart pounded my chest. I was beating faster with every word Juno said. No, wait, what are you talking about? What do you mean I have to go back? Wait, what about you? We're going back to my ship. This jet is only part of the ship. The ship itself is waiting for me in orbit, and there are more devices, more tools. I'll try to create a cure. And you should be with your loved ones, and no, what are you talking about, Juno? This is my planet, my house, and if it's in danger, I'm not going to sit idle and lie. I will help you in any way I can. It would be as much better if there were two of us. Still, it could be very dangerous. What if you get affected? Or what if you get affected? Juno was silent a couple of moments, but then she shook her head. Still, you better go back. I don't want to be specifically distracted by worries about you. I don't want to let it happen again. I sighed, immediately realizing there were worries were growing from Juno frowned. Turn away from me again. Juno, nothing will happen to me. And if it does, that will mean you couldn't have prevented it. I won't be much better off at home anyway than with you. If the virus is spreading so fast, then my village may be in danger, but this virus won't be able to get on your ship. Juno was silent, apparently trying to decide how to process. I reached out and squeezed her hand in mine, and at the moment I felt a wave of heat radiated throughout my body. I thought I never touched Juno like this before, gently squeezing her palm, saying that I was there next to her and nothing would happen to me. In fact, I never touched anyone like that, even my parents. They didn't need my support, they tried to support me, but it never worked out. Now I felt more ready to battle than ever, more motivated than ever. Maybe this was my purpose, who knew? A scientist? Help Juno with the curve. Help Juno with the cure. If I was going to die, then so be it. I'm not going anywhere. I'll stay with you, and we'll get through this together. And if you fail, then what? Juno drooped even more, and her hand squeezed mine in response. Her warm, thin fingers gently squeezed mine for a moment. My heart skipped a beat. We will think about what to do next, okay? We will solve problems as they occur. I smiled at her encouragingly. Juno was silent for a few moments, squeezing my hand, and then gave up. Fine, you're probably right. Pixie, let's go to the ship. We need to decide what to do with all this. Yes, Juno. The jet shook, and soon we soared into the sky. Wait, jet? Like full-blown jet? Like Star Destroyer kind of jet? Shee! Juno's ship hovering like Juno's ship hovering like Telia in the sky was much bigger than I thought. It was huge. Never seen anything like it before. Our planet could be seen from huge windows. It was so small, defenseless in appearance. My heart sank, and the mere thought it would soon be destroyed. No, I wouldn't let that happen. I couldn't. I have to confess something. I turned to Juno, who was sitting in the big captain's chair. What? You see, I came to your planet for a reason. For the last few years, I've been chasing some kind of anomaly. It was like I was moving through space. I didn't know, but it was jumping from planet to planet. I somewhat knew it. My predictions go crazy. Every time I arrived at those planets, there was no one and nothing left to help, but even the virus was already dead. My sensors detected that anomaly was approaching your planet, but I was hoping that it would bypass you. However, as you can see, it didn't happen. Didn't you say that this disease may not be dangerous for humans? I was hoping for that. A virus can't be dangerous for all creatures, only for a small number of species. There were no humans or large animals on previous planets, and I hoped that the virus was killing only plants and small animals, but it turns out this isn't the case. Wait, but if the virus can't be dangerous for a species, why then? It can't kill everything unless it's artificially created. Oh... Okay. So let's just say Juno created it. I froze, frowning and barely just digesting Juno's words. What do you mean? Someone created this virus and perhaps created it specifically for your galaxy. But I don't know who or why. And I don't know if I'm right, we need more samples and materials. So this anomaly is now on my planet. Yes, but I don't know if this is a living creature that infects everything around it or a clot of energy. Maybe it's some kind of object, a fragment of a stone. You think where it is? Do you know where it is? Yes, but you can't go there like this. You need to first create some kind of protection, perhaps develop immunity, and for what we need more samples. I pressed my lips together, feeling an unspeakable weight on my shoulders. Everything suddenly became so complicated and serious and dangerous that I didn't know how to react. If I was, it was as if I was. It was as if a gloomy black night had suddenly fallen in the middle of a clear day, and I didn't know what to do with it. And Juno's confusion scared me even more. You need to collect samples. That's what we're going to do, okay? It was necessary to stay stern and not let panic get better of the situation. This was what my parents and teachers taught me. It's always control my conditions and not give in to anxiety, even if I really wanted to. Juno fringed and smiled and nodded. She got up, came to me, and we stood in front of a huge window. You're right, Doggo. We will work together. I promise that I will try to do everything in my power to help you and your planet. I won't give up. I'll do everything I can. I give you my word. We were standing opposite from each other. I feel my heart filled with warmth just looking at Juno, from her voice, from the faint smile depicted on her helmet. I have never experienced anything like this, such engagement, such support. At some point, it seemed to me that I just had to hug her. That was what I did. I leaned forward and hugged Juno tightly. She froze, and I immediately realized what was happening, then hugged me back. Folding her hands around my neck, we stood like this for several long minutes. I didn't know how much time had passed. It was warm and good in her arms, and I thought about it would be like this to stay with her forever. Just as my parents have been with each other all my life, I wanted to be with Juno. Ooh. Okay. Feelings are developing. The thought was sudden, bright as a shooting star, and I never wanted anything so much. My heart started beating faster, and I hugged Juno even tighter. I wish I could stay here with her forever, snuggled up to each other and not think about anything, leaving all my problems in the past. Thank you, Juno. I whispered those words in her ear, and Juno pulled me closer, burying her face on my shoulder, and at the moment I realized I was completely helplessly in love with her. Oh God, that looks weird. We started working on a cure. Actually, Juno started, and in the meantime, I tried to help her in any way I could. For collecting samples, Juno had given me a huge string suit that was a little too big for me. It didn't let me out of the jet without it. Collecting samples wasn't easy. Most of the animals infected with the virus became extremely aggressive before death. A couple of times, we barely escaped from a ranged I don't like that word. Bangers, who chased us all the way to the jet until Juno pulled out a rifle and shoot them. It seemed like the virus was simply driving its carriers crazy, staying over the corpses of the animals. I thought only about how to stop it all. The zombies then. Okay, on the ship, I spent more and more time hanging out with Juno in the lab, trying to learn something at least. Juno would keep me updated on almost all her actions despite being tired. Even if I didn't understand everything, even if it was easier for me than speaking an unfamiliar alien language backwards, I still tried to understand until my brains creaked from the strain just to get to speed. The connection between Juno and I was getting stronger every day. I couldn't imagine an hour without her. We spent all our free time together chatting about all sorts of things, trying to distract ourselves from heavy thoughts. I told Juno what it was like for me in the village, how I was being prepared to become the chosen one, and in response she shared stories about her adventures with Toshi. She talked about distant planets, different worlds, beautiful and ugly, hospital and aggressive. The longer it lasted, the more deeply I fell in love with Juno. Sometimes it seemed like this feeling was so strong, so huge that it would run out of space and cramped within my chest. I didn't know how to tell her about it, or how to choose the right words. One evening, we were sitting opposite each other after a long hard day. Why do you want to help our planet so much? I was distracted from her thoughts. What do you mean? Well, I'm just curious. I mean, our planet is just probably one of many for you. Why do you want to help us so badly? Well, because one, the virus she was talking about that's been hopping from planet to planet. That's one. Yeah, that's the only one I can think of. Well, mainly the one I can think of. Juno was silent for a few moments. She was looking out of one of the huge windows in which the boundless and dark of space was visible. I didn't know. I just want to help. And I want to help you. You're a great human, Doggo. Even though my name is Doggo. I am very glad that you have become my friend. I smiled gently and nodded. Thank you. And I'm very glad I found you too, that we met. My heart was beating very fast in my chest. I suddenly thought that now was the time to say it was about time, because there may not be a better moment. Who knew that awaited us next? It was our plans to work out, but if we get infected and died with everyone else. First time in my life I was in love. I wanted you to know about it. I never thought I'd meet someone like you. That is, I didn't even hope, to be honest. Gina looked at me with a positive expression on her face. What are you talking about? Well, you mean that him. Turns out it's not easy to it turns out it's not so easy to say it. I smiled sheepishly. Juno tilted her head to the side of the bird. Say what? What do you mean, Doggo? I shifted. Oh, the music's hyping me up. I shifted in my chair, gathering my thoughts. I couldn't turn back. I had already started. I never felt this way, but I'm pretty sure I'm in love with you. If you understand, if you have that in your culture. I hesitantly fell silent, not knowing what else to say. The thoughts in my head were confused. Each one was stupider than the next. I must have looked terribly awkward, red with embarrassment, with a nervous look that dashed around the room. I didn't even know if Juno understood me. Maybe there was no such thing on our planet. A reddish blush was reflected on Juno's helmet. Doggo, are you sure? Feeling my heart flutter, I nodded. Yes, absolutely. I think I fell in love with you almost immediately. I just realized later I'd never been in love with anyone. Damn, how difficult this is. I never fallen in love with anyone. But I'm sure I'm in love with you. That's it. How can you be sure if you've never been in love? I shrugged my shoulders. I don't know. I feel like that way. That's so. I can't help myself. Juno paused, thinking about something. She looked out the window again. I didn't expect her to immediately rush into my arms, but I wanted her to know. And as soon as I voiced it, my heart felt somehow more at ease. I've always been so afraid to get attached, especially after Toshi. But now, I don't know why, but I feel it for you too, Doggo. I want to be near you. I want to help you. I don't know why it happened, but she timidly fell silent, and I, feeling after my heart fluttered, whispered, "Destiny, right?" Ooh, he got Riz. My main character got that Riz, bro. Oh my god. Right after that, everything happened by itself. I don't remember how close we got each other, but Juno snuggled up to me and I to her. And at the moment, every action we did felt so right that I didn't focus on the specifics of it. It was just wonderful. Nice, okay. We fell silent, sitting back in our chairs, both completely exhausted. Juno? Can I ask a question? Is it something personal again? She smiled at me affectionately and nodded. Just ask it already. About Toshi. Well, I thought you were and him too. Well, together, like in love and all that? Juno looked at me for a few seconds long. There was no expression on her helmet. At first, I thought I had something terribly effing. Not that it was important for me to know. I didn't care who Juno had before me. Finally, after thoroughly considering my question, Juno shook her head. No, Doggo, Toshi and I were best friends. I never thought of him that way. We were like family. Always together, help each other out, supported. But what we have? But this is completely different. I feel different, not like him. I feel bad now. This feeling isn't stronger or weaker, it's just different. Okay, I get it. Thank you for answering. Don't mention it. Have you had anyone? I blushed and shook my head. No, in our village with this, well, it's kind of difficult. Why? Are there no girls in the village? Hey, yo, chill. There are, of course, but they all cared about that I was the chosen one. They talked about it all the time. They weren't interested in me. Of course, I could use my status and get any girl, but I didn't want that. I always wanted something real, you know? Juno shook her head. Not really. What do you mean by real? Well, I wanted real feelings, wanted to fall in love. So we love each other in general. I wasn't interested in just getting close to a girl for the sake of getting laid, you know? I always dreamed that I would have the same as my parents. What's special about your parents? I smiled softly, remembering Dad and Mom. They indeed love each other. As soon as they met, they immediately realized they were made for each other. Well, that's what they told me. And all my life they were together, supporting each other, looked at each other with such loving look. It seemed to me that I would never have such a thing. Definitely not with the girls from the village. I hoped, of course, that maybe in the future I would find someone from another village who would see me as me, not as a savior. However, I didn't think my ruler would be from another planet. I laughed and Juno laughed along with me. Well, you did want someone special, so you got it. Unavailable to restrain my tenderness in my chest, I took Juno's hand and pressed her palm against my lips. At the moment Pixie came to life above the ceiling. Juno, the sample analysis is finished. You asked me to tell you. Alright, analysis. Thanks, Pixie. Juno started getting dressed. And I started putting. Oh, what? Wait, there was a sex scene and I didn't get to see it? Oh, whatever. Juno laughed out loud and she heard that this undisguised shame. Wait a minute. Let's save this real quick. Wait, yes. We're going to Steam. Okay, I know what to do. Okay. I had it off. That's why. Start page. There it is. Yeah. Alright, after that one, myself. I don't know how close you are. Just okay. Let me save. Just in case. Oh my god. Content file locked? What does that mean? Okay, there we go. Okay. Load this there. Oh. The music really changed. I remember how close we got to each other, but Juno shrugged up at me at the moment. Every action was basic. Just touching her, my intuitions told me what to do. I caressed Juno. My body quickly filled with heat, responding to every touch. I felt how tight my pants were getting. Oh my god, was already becoming almost stone hard. Oh my god, Juno took her hand from my body, beginning to undress. She calmly took off her armor, remaining completely naked in front of me. My gaze greedily slid over her body, her soft breasts, hardened nipples. This is too much. Oh my god, supple skin. Juno approached me. She rubbed against me when she was left almost completely naked, except for the helmet. My cock was already so hard that it almost hurt. You are so beautiful. Juno smiled sheepishly. She took my hand, pulled my hands to her, and put on them on her warm, big breasts. My body was shot through with excitement. I shifted my seat. Juno appeared and noticed out of the corner of her eye that my pants were already eloquently started to bulge from the increasing erection and leaned closer. Juno asked without a shadow of shame, "Do you want to touch my breasts?" I turned out red all over. My gaze jumped to Juno's chest and my mouth opened in surprise. Are you seriously, really? Juno didn't answer my question. Taking my hand in hers, immediately put it on her left breast. My eyebrows went up on my forehead from such a gesture. My fingers didn't move, but I barely contained myself on how much I wanted to squeeze her tits. Juno, it's okay to hold you like. What is this? What? I'm crying right now. Juno prompted, "Squeeze it." I did so. I squeezed her breast with my fingers, feeling how soft and warm she was, feeling Juno's heart beating. Without saying a word, I leaned forward, not paying attention to anything else, and I pressed my lips against her neck in a kiss. I froze, feeling how soft her skin was. It was hard to call it a kiss, just like a touch of my lips on her neck, but it was enough for me to even get more excited. Yielding to the desire, I slid my tongue along her neck, forcing Juno to close her eyes for pleasure. I continued to knead her breasts, already completely mindlessly revealing it. Juno apparently decided it was time to move on. My heart jumped excited in my chest when she took my hand off my wrist, put it on my fly, feeling my hard cock under the fabric of my clothes. I couldn't help but exhaust. Juno, she began to knead. What the heck is that? Let me search it up real quick. Knead? I love the music, bro. The music choice is hilarious. Moisturized dough paste, whatever. My dick dude my clothes, caressing it with her hand. I hissed, spreading my legs wider. For a few seconds I tried to grab hold of my remnants of consciousness in which a fog of excitement was thickening, but at the end I repeated after Juno remaining naked in front of her. Juno immediately drew my attention to my cock, which made my face turn bright red. My cock was large, of course, and the head smearing pre-cum, a relief of thin veins under the delicate skin could be seen. Thick hairs curled. You didn't have to. Right, that. Juno reached out and immediately took out my cock, hugging me with her fingers. I almost choked on the ground. Juno, damn it. You like. This is like sexting. This is so awkward. Oh my god. Ooh, this is cool. I like it. I like the background. It's pretty cool. Juno caressed my shaft with her hand for a few minutes, running it up and down, then sat even closer and hugged her breast with her hands. I felt butterflies flooding in my stomach, my heart pounding loudly and excited with my chest, my brain burning with disbelief. Did Juno really feel like it did? Oh, it even shows it too. Oh, okay, I see. I bugged my hips forward with my heart chicken slid right between her soft round breasts. A wave of heat swept through my body. Juno shuddered too, feeling the hot flesh sliding over her skin. She took her plush breasts in her hands, squeezing them on both sides of her palms, and began caressing my cock with her breasts. I was ready to melt on the spot, enjoying the gentle tightness and heat of her body. My hard cock penetrated both her. Okay, how long is this? Like, I'm beginning to move in the inviting tightness, pleasure thickened in my lower abdomen, and I could breathe, just panting. At the moment, I even wished I'd seen Juno's expression, only in the hologram helmet in my head. I don't think they have I think they're built like this? I'm not sure. And she blushed deeply and bit her lip. Oh, he's so hot. Oh. From the third person, her voice made my cock twitch, pushing faster and gradually beginning to build up a pace. Juno was breathing heavily, squeezing her chest. Her whole body was shaking, goosebumps were running over my skin. I licked my dry lips, watching the golden image on her screen. Helmet changed. I pushed between her breasts for the entire length so that the head of my dick peeked out between them, forcing Juno to gracefully arch her back and swallow a quiet sigh. My mind was completely clouded with excitement. I was moving faster, greedily and impatiently, breathing hard and fast, enjoying every movement, every second, driving my dick between her breasts. It was wet from leaking precum and her sweat, and I could feel Juno's heart beat fast behind her ribs with my whole body. My body moved on itself, become incredibly sensitive and hot. Juno was moaning faintly, feeling me pushing into the privilege between her breasts and impatiently jerking my hips without paying attention to anything around. I'm grabbing her breasts and squeezing them harder, and I thrust deeper and faster, moaning hoarsely and panting. Juno was silent, not looking as I approached the edge, intoxicated with lust and desire. Okay. I shuddered, feeling waves of pleasure envelop my entire body like molasses on my skin. My eyes squeezed shut, a moan escaped from my mouth. Hearing nothing around me, I feebly began to move faster, but gently deeply. Minutes merged to hours. My heart was pounding fiercely against my ribs and my chest. Her cheeks were flushed scarlet. Her thick eyelashes were quivering. Her skin was sweating with excitement, and Juno was imperceptibly squeezing her hips, making her knees trembling a little. Apparently she was enjoying what was happening much more than she was ready to admit, but I wasn't going to push her. Instead, I was teasing her nipples with the pads of my fingers. Juno didn't make a sound. Through her breathing quickened. I don't think this is even gonna go on YouTube. Oh, I didn't even see this. That's cool. I wanted to run my hand over her body, down her spread legs, to make sure that she was also wet, but I didn't do it really meant on pleasure. Meanwhile, Juno was kneading. What the heck is kneading? Like, oh my god, whatever. Squeezing them between her index and middle finger, rubbing the hard keys. Her ears were quivering with pleasure. She was fidgeting. Sitting on the floor in front of me made my desire in my body grow hotter. I felt myself getting closer to orgasm with each movement. My hips were impatiently pushed up, and a taut knot tightened my lower abdomen. Goosebumps ran over my skin. I kept losing my rhythm, pushing between her breasts. Oh, it's still in the breast part. My pulse was pounding wildly in my ears. I felt like a little more, and I reached my peak. Damn it, Juno, I'm about to come. Yes, doggo, please, I wanted to see it. This is so weird. Imagine the developer writing this like, This is how you get an audience. Juno responded to my warning with an impatient groan. I began to move faster and sharper from the height of her pink hard nipples like two beads. My cock hardened even more. As it was approaching, I was ready to collapse into it at any second. Juno squeezed her breast hardly, squeezing the cup between, nervously breathing coming out of my mouth. Realizing that I would reach my limit, I jerked my hips one last time, and crushing Juno's breast with my hands, I climaxed, not holding back the chorus a cry. Huh. Splashed out in tight jets in Juno's chest, collarbones, and helmet, staining her with whitish drops. My body turned into a huge jelly, and it was impossible to control. I had to move away and lean against the wall so that the post-orgasm trembling would pass. Juno was breathing heavily, taking drops of sperm from her helmet with interest. I was confused for some reason. What are you doing? Nothing, it was just funny. I'd never seen a human see. Huh. My cheeks flushed. Really? Yes, I haven't had a chance before. She laughed when she saw my ashamed expression. We fell silent, settling back in our chairs, completely naked and content. Juno? Asked a question. Something personal again? She smiled at me affectionately and nodded. Just ask it already. But pushy. Well, I thought. Were you with him too? What, to get in love and all that? Juno looked at me fiercely. Oh, okay, I see. Okay. I see. I'm gonna end this here. Did not expect that. Reading that was really embarrassing, weird. I have goosebumps on my skin right now. Like, just reading that was just, reading out loud is way different than reading in your head. That is it for probably episode 2 or 1. I don't know, I might just make this whole series into like 2 hours, whenever I feel like it. If you guys enjoyed it, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna go to church. That's what I'm gonna do.